Are you ready to learn from another owner who is in the trenches, growing and scaling a plumbing and air conditioning business? What's up, blue collar business owners? Welcome back to the Blue Collar Prosperity Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Maskill, where we focus on helping guide you to have a prosperous business. Today, we have with us Mehdi Khachani. He is the founder and CEO of Sunny Bliss Plumbing and Air, a fast-growing residential service company based in Miami, Florida. He's a licensed general contractor, plumbing and air conditioning contractor, real estate broker in Florida, and he has built Sunny Bliss into a trusted, known company for quality, reliability, and customer-first approach. When he's not leading his team, he is enjoying time with his wife, 2 sons, and traveling all over the world. He's been to over 50 countries. So that is Mehdi Khachani. Welcome, Mehdi. Thank you so much for being here. What's going on in Florida today?
Hey, beautiful weather as always. Less humidity. Paul, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be in your podcast. You know, I follow you on LinkedIn, and I love to see those videos that you share on a regular basis. And I look forward to this session.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mehdi. Excited to have you here. But really, I think our listeners love learning from other people that are in the trenches, doing the thing, scaling the business, and really, you know, going on the same journey that they're going, because sometimes we get caught up with all the stuff on social media and the bright, shiny objects. And then when we realize there's a lot of other people doing the same thing, it helps out. And you were just talking about you were at the Next Star event and learning from other people that are bigger than you, helping people smaller than you, bigger than you. So let's get into it. Where we really want to start is your journey. So how did your journey start in the trades, in construction, before you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I have quite of an atypical background, let's say, but I come more from a white collar environment in the sense that I'm probably I studied for too long, studying engineering and then doing my MBA. I led a corporate career for 12 years, and then eventually I started my journey in entrepreneurship. This is my 3rd business, actually. I launched a property management business and then a construction business, residential remodeling business called PMk&x. And then from that business, I spun off the plumbing and HVAC home service business. It was initially called JMK Plumbing. And then I realized that it's a terrible idea to call your business with letters. And guess those initials, the first one is my wife's first name, initial, and then Mehdi, and then Khachani, which in my opinion was a terrible idea. Now that I'm a little bit more educated in branding. And then I worked with Kickcharge, obviously did the rebranding, etc., etc. But started from the ground up. So it's 2 phases. Start green, and then eventually I did my first acquisition this year.
It's funny you mentioned the initials, and then you mentioned Kickcharge. We had Dan Antonelli on the show a while ago, and obviously that's one of the things that he can't stand is when people name their company over their initials or their last name or their first name. So obviously you were okay letting that go, rebranding to Sunny Bliss. If you guys haven't seen the brand, connect with Mehdi online when the show is over. It's an awesome brand. I think it fits well with where he's at and what he's trying to do. So I think something that's interesting, though, because there's been a lot of white-collar people getting into the trades in the last 4 to 5 years. But like you actually started from the ground up. You first got your general contractor's license, right? Like you weren't just a white-collar guy pushing spreadsheets. Like you were in the trenches. In the trenches, I got my experience. Luckily in Florida, I think if you have a construction-related bachelor degree, they credit you 3 years of experience. So I only had to get 1 year of experience to get my GC license. I did the same for the subsequent ones. But yeah, that's kind of how I started. So you also have your plumbing license and your mechanical license as well. Like
Absolutely, yeah.
You're one of them. Like you're just not a private equity guy that's pushing spreadsheets and hoping their license holders don't leave the company.
No, exactly. I have the licenses under my name, which is gives you some peace of mind, and you don't depend on another person. But I'm still, to be honest, Paul, I'm still trying to figure out what this business represents for me, in the sense that I know a lot of people, they tell you, hey, if you go into a business, you want to exit, think about the exit. You want to get in, get out, sell the business. For me, I see it more as a legacy and as a lifestyle. business for me. So and that's the big difference, I think, from a private equity, let's say perspective. I'm really involved in the day to day, and I enjoy building a business from scratch and growing it and building teams and defining the culture and inspiring the people that make up our company. And I see myself doing this for the next 10, 20 years, and I'm completely comfortable with it.
Yeah. And I agree with you there 100%. I love the book Built to Sell because they talk about building your business sell even if you don't want it, so that you can do exactly what you said, scale it up, impact other people, give people other opportunities, leave a legacy.
Yeah.
And before 2020, I would say 95% of the people in the trades had the same mentality as you of like, I'm going to do this thing until, somebody else takes it over at some point, versus post-COVID, everyone says they want to sell their business and they want to do all the things because they hear the gurus talking and they see all the things on social media and all that. So I love the transparency and honesty that you actually want to do this for the long haul. So
yeah,
you started with general contracting, you moved into plumbing. So let's kind of pick it up there. You move into plumbing, JMK Plumbing.
mm-hmm.
How did that go? How did it start?
Well, it started with a lot of learning. I to be honest, I got in a little bit naive about the business. I know there are things that I was doing from the get-go that needed some adjustment. And I try to accelerate that journey. I know a lot of people, they start small and they grow organically. They're like, okay, let's see how it goes. And over time, they build a reputation and everything. And what I've tried to do very earlier on is just, try to get to do everything faster, which in my opinion, in retrospect, it's a lot more difficult because, if you're trying to force growth, it's expensive and it's going to impact your cash flow. You'll be negative if you're going that route. So that's what I was doing. I think some of the initial mistakes that your audience can learn from is also the compensation of the people, the technicians. I started paying hourly. My technicians, and in the home service space, performance pay makes a lot more sense. So when I made that switch, it helps the business quite a bit. But initially, the business was very small. I think we were at $1.3 million in revenue. I served a lot of property management companies as well as homeowners, whereas now we're focused primarily on homeowners. But that's kind of how it started. And then we try to, learn from the bigger players and try to optimize the business and get to a better place.
So you mentioned performance pay, and I think that, one, I 100% agree with you. Performance pay allows you to attract better talent, incentivize better talent, encourage them to continue to get better. The better they get, the more money they make, that they can move up in the company. I talk to a lot of business owners who are afraid to make that switch from hourly to performance pay. They're going to say, oh, my people are going to leave. I don't know if I'm doing it right. They're just going to sell things that customers don't need. All the things that we hear, the excuses we hear. How did that transition go? How did it play out when you're like, all right, guys, we're going from hourly to performance pay?
I think one of the advantages I had was that my base was small, so I didn't have that much to lose in some way. I don't think it was necessarily well received. I tried to do it as gradually as possible. So whenever I hired someone new, that new person was going to be on performance pay, whereas the legacy, let's say technicians, I allowed them to stay on hourly. But what I saw is the productivity of someone on hourly in the home service space. I know in construction is a different story. They didn't have really the incentive to get things done at the right pace. So they were, running the clock on jobs, and I could see a clear difference between the two. And then the P&L, the moment that I was 100% on performance pay, I could see it in the P&L, and it's made a major difference. What I like about it also is, we do payroll on a weekly basis. And then because I have 100% performance pay, when my payroll is high, I actually celebrate because that payroll is tied to revenue. That means we've had a good week.
Yeah, It's so true because when they're on hourly and your payroll's high, you're like, oh, this is going to be bad because they got overtime. It means they weren't productive. It probably means revenue didn't change, but payroll went up. Whereas if they're on performance pay, the percentage margin is pretty much going to be the same no matter what. So the
Yeah,
higher our payroll, the more revenue we're doing, the more, to me, the best part is we're actually then giving them opportunities to make more, advance their career versus historically, in my opinion, most people in the trades that work in the trades, they always have this, whenever somebody asks them what they do, they'll say, Mehdi, I'm just a plumber. I'm just an electrician. I'm just an HVAC tech. And I hate that phrase because you're not just that. And we're seeing it now with AI and everything. Like you're actually like super important to the infrastructure of this country and your job's never going to get outsourced. And now all of a sudden people are pushing the trades, whereas the last 60 years they haven't. So I love it.
yeah.
So JMK Plumbing going along, doing its thing. Did you decide to rebrand first or did you acquire the HVAC business first? What was the timeline on that?
The rebranding came first. So I go online and I follow a lot of the people that have 50, 60 million plus businesses, and a lot of them talk about the brand and how powerful it is. And that's kind of what inspired me to the rebranding. I was a little bit too ambitious in the sense that it's a big investment, and for a company my size, it was very, very premature. But I was willing to eat the bullet and move on with that. But I did the rebranding. I'm happy that I did it because obviously it's costlier to change the brand down the road versus at the beginning. But now it's a brand that we own and that we're going to protect and grow, and we don't have to think about it. Essentially my mentality was, do a lot of the investments at the beginning and then stabilize the business and grow from there a little bit more organically. But those first couple of years were not financially sound, to say the least.
Yeah, and coming from the CFO's perspective, I do agree to, like you said, it's a lot cheaper, a lot more financially sound to rebrand early if you have the capital or cash flow to do it, because it's a lot less trucks to rewrap. It's a lot less, website changes. It's a lot less everything, marketing collateral, uniforms, all the things. And then, like you said, then we can scale from there. However, if you don't have the funds, because rebranding is not cheap, but it is very valuable, it can put a hurt on cash flow, which then could take you down the other way. So what would you have done differently with the rebrand? You're super happy with it now. There's plenty of people listening to this like, man, they're on the edge. Like, should we rebrand? Should we not? What would you have done differently?
Excellent question. I have this idea that I don't really have regrets. Whatever, if you decide to do it, you're right. If you decide not to do it, you're right as well. Looking back, I would have done it again. I would have done it exactly the same way because I don't want to have to build. Because anytime you invest in Google Ads or whatever you're doing to push the brand forward, those are marketing dollars that are very expensive. You're building brand. So for me, it's a waste of money to have had spent $20,000-$30,000 in Google Ads on JMK Plumbing, knowing that JMK Plumbing is no longer going to be. So now that I have that new brand, and I've seen it, like when I go on Search Console and I look at the traffic, people actually don't look for plumbing in Miami; they look for Sunny Bliss, and that's a big part of what we're trying to accomplish. And it's just you bite the bullet earlier on, and once you have it, nobody's going to take it away from you. And you're going to have it for the next 20 years. So it's an initial investment that's worthwhile. If I had to answer your question specifically, Paul, if I had to make that decision again, I would do it exactly the same way I've done it.
Love it. And I think the big thing to hit on there for the listeners is what Mehdi said as far as what people search for. And I feel a lot of people in the home service business in general, that they think their marketing company is going to has the magic bullet of, hey, if we just give you money, you're just going to start printing money for us in return. Where we got to understand home service is like a demand business. So they're not going to need a plumber today if they see your van or they see JMK Plumbing or they see Sunny Bliss. But when they do need a plumber, they are going to ask themselves in their brain, what is that thing I always see? Oh, I always see the iguana or chameleon or lizard, whatever Sunny Bliss's logo is. It's stuck in my brain. And I don't even live in Miami because I see it online. And then that's what I search for. And Dan Antonelli preaches it. And it is so true because most of our services, when they see us, they don't need us. But when they need us, we need them to remember. We need to own a little space in their brain that who's that plumber I always see, or who's that electrician I always see, or who's that HVAC company I always see. So great insight there from someone that's actually been through the rebranding process. So we rebrand. Now you decide to grow through acquisition. That's a hot topic for everybody. How did that go initially, and then how's it going today?
Yeah. So to put things in perspective, I'm in month 8, 9 of the acquisition, so I'm still in the middle of it. I think if I had to use a word to describe the acquisition, it's painful. I mean, obviously, you put things in spreadsheets and you try to project and model the benefits from the acquisition, right? You're going to increase your revenue. You're going to see some synergies. You can save on some headcounts. But the reality, and then you're going to have all these incremental customers. But the reality is a lot different than that. For me, if you're going to do an acquisition, number one is obviously you need to have the funds to do it. And you don't want to lever too much, because I know a friend of mine who bought a company, and then the new entity was not able to service the debt and then he had to close shop. So you have to be very conservative. I mean, don't buy something that's with debt that's so big that the cash flow is not going to be there to service the debt. Then I think the other components, and you know this better than anybody, is the working capital, right? So if you have a bigger organization, you're going to need a bigger working capital to run it. Even though, yes, we're in home services, we work with homeowners, most of our transactions are COD. What all that does is obviously it lowers your working capital need, but still, if you have a bigger operation, just know you're going to need deeper pockets to run that operation. And so that's also another factor to account for. And then if you're not private equity and you're a business owner like myself, you're going to be in the trenches. And I don't have necessarily the resources to hire a GM, or I'm the GM of the business. And I hired my service managers. I'm doing training on a weekly basis with the technicians. I roll up my sleeves and I get stuff done. So I had a very similar conversation with my wife this morning. And I told her, we're working out together. And I'm like, if we could go back in time and you choose between doing the acquisition versus not doing the acquisition, what would you pick? And my poor wife, we have very different personality traits. I'm a high D and I like to get stuff done, whereas she's very steady and loves processes, procedures, and stuff like that. So I'm a huge source of stress for my wife, and I admit it. But and she said yes. She said I'm glad that we did it, which was reassuring for me to hear. Obviously, the business we're more than doubled the revenue from the PMk Plumbing than Sunny Bliss, etc. So I like to say it would have taken me probably 3 years to get to where I am right now after the acquisition. And the payback may not be as fast as I projected, but 3 years, 4 years in the life of a company is a long time. So I'm glad to be where I am. Obviously, I'm still dealing with hurdles and optimization. And, the other thing, Paul, that I would like to add is, before you acquire a business, especially if it's a business that you're going to add on top of an existing business, make sure your processes are in check. Make sure you work with Paul and you know that your numbers make sense, because if you amplify something that's inefficient, if you amplify something that is not profitable, you're going to go through serious problems. So first, make sure that whatever you have, if you're not starting, if you're not just going to have that company acquire, make sure that's optimized.
Yeah, it's great advice because as you and I know, a lot of people chase that top line, but if there's nothing left on the bottom line, if you just add to it, now you've got a bigger problem to deal with, less resources to tackle those problems. And if you have debt to service, then that just, that really accelerates the unfortunate doom of a potential business. So you had mentioned working capital. I think this is something important to note for that I've seen happen more than once is when we acquire a business, we also have to learn what is that current business doing? Because what I see a lot of times is those current technicians might not be used to using technology where they take payment right up front. And they're just used to the office sending an invoice and hopefully we get paid one day. So then getting them on board to do it is going to take a little bit of time too. So I've seen companies get stuck, might be a financially healthy company, but they're assuming, well, our current business we have Service Titan and we swipe a card and everything's good. But this business that we're acquired might not do that. And retraining technicians that have done something the same way for so long can take a little bit of time. So I just want to hit on that for the listeners out there. How did your integration go with the current people? How many people were on that business, on that team when you bought it? How many are still there today? Because I know sometimes there's some attrition that can happen quickly just because people don't like change.
Yeah, I think if I had to estimate, maybe I have 30 to 40% of the people that were there originally. The business, I think, had 12 people, including the owner and the daughter of the owner. They both no longer work with Sun and Bliss, which was the initial agreement. So, yeah, I mean, the mindset is very important. I think they were paid hourly versus Sun and Bliss. So the ones that are still with me from the prior company that I retained, they are still paid hourly. And it's hard to take that away from them because I know the moment I take it away from them, they're going to leave. And they have a lot of experience. They add a lot of value to the organization. It's just that they're not doing it in the most efficient way possible. So, the culture is also very different. We're culture-driven company. We have 5 values, and those 5 values, we reiterate them on a daily basis. Even when people do certain things, we always try to relate what they do, whether it's something positive or negative, to the values. Hey, you applied this. This is awesome, or this is something you can improve on, etc., etc. But I thought there was some alignment on the culture, and that's one of the reasons that invited me and pushed me to close on the deal. But at the same time, there were some cultural differences that have forced my hand in letting go some of the people that were part of the prior organization.
Yeah, and hitting on values, I think, is so important because I think historically, again, in the blue collar space, most, especially technician started companies, like, values, that's stupid. Like, we're here to be a plumber. We're here to be a landscaper. I don't care about values. But the importance that you just hit on is, kind of using it as a filter for every decision we make, whether it's good or bad. Hey, did we stick to all our values? If we don't know which way to go, let's use our values to help us decide that. When did you decide to implement values, and how did your people take it? Because I know sometimes people are afraid to roll out values because they're worried about what other people are going to think.
Yeah. It's interesting because sometimes employees can perceive, or team members can perceive, values, especially depending on their background, as fluff, etc. But for me, from day one, and from the moment we started the company, I knew that values are the DNA of the business. And every presentation, every training I do, I start by reiterating the values. Number 1 is integrity, and then accountability, constant improvement, teamwork, and desire to win. These are our five values. And I just repeat them over like a broken disc, over and over again. And I tell them, I'm not repeating these every day just because I want to sound fancy or this. This is really what defines who we are. And if you're going to make a decision and I'm not around, or your manager is not around, as long as that decision is aligned with these values, you cannot go wrong. And I'm seeing, because of how persistent I've been with reinforcing the values, I know my team is now using it in their day to day, but also I'm seeing my managers replicate my behavior in reinforcing the values.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it starts at the top, then you get the managers buy in, then you get the technicians to buy in. And when you continue to reiterate, obviously you can hit on the importance of it. So one of the last few questions I have, I think, is really interesting on how you've built your office team. I feel more companies are going to this, but I know plenty of companies that aren't. Most of your office team is remote. How did that come to be? What are the pros and cons? Give us the insight into building a remote office.
Yeah, the interesting thing is I've become almost like an expert in having a remote team. And I've done it with the 3 businesses. Even property management has a large number of people that are based in Colombia, actually. Same for the GC and Sunny Bliss. And culture, speaking of culture helps. Like I just posted a message from one of our managers who's in Colombia. He's running the CSR department. And he mentions the cultures, and he talks about how much he loves working with Sunny Bliss. So, and what we do, the way we do it, we have a Zoom page where everybody comes and connects whenever they clock in. So if you're going to be working, you're going to be in a Zoom call. And we have, within Zoom call, you have these breakouts. And it's almost like having different offices. So if I want to go visit my Sunny Bliss office in Colombia, I just go on Zoom and I go from office. Okay, I have an office for CSR. I have an office for dispatch. I have an office for inside sales. I have an office for administrative. And we get used to it. I mean, it has its pros and its cons. I think the people that we were able to hire are, first of all, their English is perfect. They speak just as well as anyone else. They're highly educated. And obviously there is that component that it's a competitive compensation, and it helps the business. But besides that, I think another factor that we're looking into is AI, right? So we have that team, and we were able to. Even though everybody is in different city, they feel like they belong to Sunny Bliss and they're contributing to the vision, etc. But we're also looking at how we can incorporate AI to make the business more efficient. From a management standpoint, it's a little bit more challenging. I know that having like CSRs in the same room is gonna enable you to do coaching better. And I know I don't have that, but I think the benefits of having a remote team outweigh the benefits of having someone sitting next to you.
For sure. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And the way you have it set up on Zoom, that's super cool. As we kind of wrap this thing up, we mentioned at the beginning, you want to do this for a long time. Where's Sunny Bliss going next? Where do you ultimately want to take this thing, in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So Sunny Bliss, people may not know it, but Sunny Bliss is going to be the #1 home service business in Miami. No question about it. We want to be in 3 years at $5 million in revenue, and then in 5 years, north of 8. That's for the revenue, but we want to really blend in with the community and be a local Miami company that offers multiple trades under the same roof. Right now we have plumbing and HVAC. We'll eventually add the electrical services. But what's also very unique, I think, about Sunny Bliss is the importance of the people that make up the company. I have this philosophy that if the company does well, I want it to be a company that takes care of its employees. And that's also a big component of our culture. And I think the people, our people feel that. And one of the messages I mentioned earlier from our teammate is he was saying that it's a gift for him to be working at Sunny Bliss, and he doesn't feel like he's working because it's such a nice environment to contribute and work together. He says he doesn't see the time going by, and it's already the end of the day. But that culture is that part of our culture is extremely important. And in terms of importance, I think my employees or teammates come first, then the customer, and then the ownership of the company.
Well, I will tell you this. If I was a betting man, you'll be doing more than $8 million in 5 years. So can't wait to see your journey continue. It's been fun to watch kind of go from JMK Construction, JMK Plumbing, Sunny Bliss, and where you're going to go in the next 5 years is super exciting. You built the foundation. So as we wrap this up, Mehdi, we want our listeners to take immediate action. Whether we've talked about it or something that's been on your mind, what's one thing you would recommend the listeners do? They own home service companies just like you. What's one thing you would recommend they do in the next 24 hours to move their business just one step forward?
Okay. I did mention performance pay, and I think performance pay should be non-negotiable. You have to go to performance pay if you're not doing it. And then we touched on Next Star. I strive to surround myself with people that are better than me. And Next Star is an amazing organization with some of the largest, most successful contractors in the trade. I just came from the super meeting. I was in Denver this week, and I can tell you the people that I was around, they had $20+ million companies, and they were so generous. They almost took me under the wing, and they wanted to introduce me to other people, and they gave me advice, etc. So besides pay for performance, the other thing I would say is find people that are way ahead of you or that are in wherever you want to be, and make sure you get close to those people and know what they say. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Well said. Mehdi Khachani, thanks again for coming on the show, sharing your journey and providing a bunch of actionable advice, wisdom, and insight for all the blue-collar business owners out there as we continue on this journey to prosperity. Before we sign off, Mehdi, where can our listeners go to reach out with you, keep in touch with you if they want to chat with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Find me on LinkedIn under my name, Mehdi Khachani, and visit our website. If you want to check out the logo, it's www.sunnybliss.com.
There you guys go. Check out Sunny Bliss. If you're looking for Mehdi on LinkedIn, it's Mehdi, and then Khachani is Khachani. Mehdi, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your journey. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.
And before we go, as you know, there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to creating consistent, positive cash flow. However, the journey starts with making sure you are priced right so you can have a growing and more profitable business. I've created a super easy to use pricing calculator for everyone in the trades. You will no longer have to guess what you should charge. You'll no longer have to call around your competition and see what they charge. This calculator is easy to use and will provide you confidence and clarity that you're actually priced right. It also comes with a step-by-step PDF guide and a video walkthrough. So head on over to thebluecollaradvisors.com/price. thebluecollaradvisors.com/price to download it today, and so you can start implementing it tomorrow. Until next time, remember, what got you here won't get you there. If you are ready for different results, it's time to start doing things differently.